Hello everybody, Ray Garner with Garner's Games. Here to do my first Battletome review, the Blades of Khorne. The reason why Blades of Khorne are getting done, and they're the first one that I'm doing, is because they're my new up-and-coming ancient army. And by what I mean by that is, I bought the original box set for Age of Sigmar, would be 10 years ago now, I believe. Maybe 11. I have to actually look at the calendar to confirm that. And I finally last year finished painting the Blades of Khorne, because I just kind of put them off to the side. I went all in on Stormcast, focused on Stormcast. I built a couple of different Stormcast armies. But, you know, Blood for the Blood God is just one of the coolest things in all of Warhammer. 40k, Age of Sigmar, it doesn't matter. That's why they're the most popular army of Chaos, is all the Khorne armies. Whether it's World Eaters, whether it's Blades of Khorne, something about guys who just want to go and massacre everything that's in their way. Makes them a cool thematic army. We can debate how often the rules have really reflected them being good at that, and often they haven't been. But this new Battletome, I think, really does drive home the theme of the Khorne army. There's some areas where it could be stronger, and we'll go over a few of those here real quick. And I'm not going to make this a super long, in-depth video. There's guys who got this book a month ago and had plenty of time to read it and find detail tune and look at every plus and minus here, there, and yonder and what it does with this unit and that unit. This isn't really a tactics review. This is a why you should be playing Blades of Khorne in Age of Sigmar. Because they are a great army, thematic army, and this Battletome, the way it's built, in my opinion, really reflects that. I'm going to start off by going to the faction rules. You know, that's very first real rule on page 58 of the book. And what we're talking about there is my cat's trying to do some blood tiding right here. What are you biting me for, cat? You have to build up blood tide points to be able to really unlock cool abilities, which is a very on-theme concept for Khorne. Now, you do start off with Murder Lust right off the bat. With Murder Lust, you roll a dice. You can replace one of the dice in a charge with that value. If you do so, inflict D3 mortal wounds on the unit using that charge ability after this ability resolves. So, you can roll a dice. See if it's a good value. And then you can replace one of the charge dice. You don't have to. You can replace one of the charge dice so that you can basically make sure you make the charge. The price for that, D3 mortal wounds to your unit for making sure you get in there. Basically, Khorne making you pay for stubbing your toe on the charge. And that is an auto unlocked. You automatically have that. Because Khorne armies realistically don't have range. Yes, there's technically a couple units, and there's some priest spells that can get out there. But if you're not smashing things with axes, you're not playing Khorne right. And this kind of reflects that. Now you go on, there's several different ones. There's Divine Scorn, Punish the Pacifist, Murder the Mystic, Glorious Battle or Not, Reveling Battle, Slaughter Triumphant, and Cleave Wide the Grin of Khorne. And there's a tree to how you build towards this. Your first tier is two different ones. The first two are listed. They're 1 point each. Your second tier, there's three of them. Two of them are 2 points each, and the third one, Reverend Battle, is three blood tides. And then your bottom two are 4. And how you get blood ties is a unit dies. Your unit, your opponent unit, it don't matter. You know, Khorne does not care from where the blood flows so long as it flows. And again, this reflects that. Some of the key ones I wrote down that I thought were neat was, and I'll read those real quick, Punish the Pacifist. Uh, each unit, friendly or enemy, and enemy manifestations not in combat are targeted. So that's the whole board. It's a board-wide thing. Roll a dice. On a 1 or 2, inflict 1 mortal wound to each target. On a 3-up, inflict 1 mortal wound to each enemy target. So, once you activate this, you're doing a mortal wound to everything your opponent has that's not in combat, period. If you roll 1 or 2, you're also doing a wound to every one of your units that is not in combat. And it's your combat phase. And once it's unlocked, you can do that every combat phase of yours. Let's see, the next one was Divine Scorn that I wrote down, which is actually one of your other tier 1. It's pick up to 3 enemy wizards or priests within 6 inches of a friendly Blade of Khorne unit to be targets. Roll a dice for each target. On a 3+, subtract 1 from the target's power level to a minimum of 0 until the start of the next turn. And this is the start of any turn. So you effectively, because in some of the battles I've faced, I see a lot of level 1 priests, level 1 wizards. Subtracting 1 from up to 3 of those can rob your opponent pretty much of their priests, of their wizards, for an entire turn. Something I would probably primarily want to do on my opponent's turn. Some exceptions will apply, be fair. But, it's actually a really great ability because, magic is not your friend in the Khorne army. You don't have wizards. You have priests who chant the glory of Khorne, but you don't have actual just wizards throwing fireballs out there at people. So you need to lessen your opponent's ability to throw fireballs at you. Murder the Mystics. Same basic theme. This is one of your third tier ones. It costs 2. Pick up the 4 enemy manifestations to be targeted. You make a banishment roll on 2d6 for each target. If the banishment roll equals to or exceeds the banishment value of that target in the manifestation's war scroll, inflict 3 mortal wounds to each enemy unit within 3 inches of it and banish it and remove it from play. So, last edition manifestations became an issue. And that's the nicest way I can put that. This is a slap your opponent in the face for still using lots of manifestations. So I kind of like that. Plus, it allows you to get rid of them when you don't necessarily have a lot of people. And this doesn't require you to... It doesn't have to be a priest. It doesn't have to... It's any of your units... Can be, actually, it's not even really your units. I'm phrasing this wrong. It's enemy units. Period. Anywhere. Any of their manifestations, boom, you can do this. And then, of course, your bottom tier, my favorite one, is Cleave Wide, the Grin of Khorne. You may only unlock this ability if you've unlocked, a couple of the other abilities. Add 1 to the attack rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Blades of Khorne unit. That is an army-wide permanent passive buff. You're going to basically, everything automatically has all-out attack on its own. No negative modifiers. So that is really cool. Now it does take, effectively, the cheapest you can get there is 7 blood ties. So 7 units have to have died, preferably not your own. But we know it's battle. Things going to happen. But that's the faction rules and the tree, and just in a quick nutshell, really good, really thematic, and just really an excellent addition to how the Khorne army works. Now we're going to move on to the next segment, which is going to be your battle formations. Now, there's 4 of those, which are known as the Khornite Legions, the Brass Stampede, the Bloodbound War Horde, and the Murder Host. For me, personally, only 2 of these are really good. And that's the Khornite Legions and the Bloodbound War Host. Alright. The Canaanite Legions allows you, once per turn, as a reaction, when you use the fight ability, one unit can use the fight ability again. So it's a fight twice ability that you can pick where you use it. Very cool, very useful. The other one, the Bloodbound, add 1 to attack rolls for combats made by friendly Bloodbound units that target enemy units as contesting objectives. So it makes taking objectives a much more easy thing. Now, the other ones aren't bad. I just don't think they're as good or as on theme as those two are. All right, the next part is going to be heroic traits. Now, basically, there's 3 of those, but Frenzy of the Taskmaster, I'm not too impressed with. Magical Scorn, which is a passive, I really do like. Is you subtract 1 from the casting roll for wizards while within 12 inches of this unit. So basically, that limits how much the sorcerer. You combine that with the other anti-magic stuff, and it's really going to start making Lumineth and stuff like that pay for bringing a bunch of wizards. -1 to the casting rolls, -1 to the wizard's levels, blowing up manifestations in your face. A lot of we don't like magic going on here. So very on Khorne theme. We're not about casting fancy spells. That's Tazisha stuff, son. We're here to beat you in the head with axes. And we expect you to respect that and try to beat us in the head with swords or whatever you brought. Alright, Skull Collector. Now, this is my personal favorite of this. Is that at the end of any turn, if any damage points were allocated to an enemy hero while by this unit attacks this turn, that enemy unit was destroyed, add 1 to the attack characteristics of this unit's melee weapons for the rest of the battle. This unit can be affected by this ability multiple times, and the effects are cumulative. So, if you have something going around killing heroes, it gets better at killing heroes, so that it can get more points to be even better at killing heroes. So, collecting skulls means something, which, again, super on theme. Artifacts of Power. There are 3 artifacts of power, and only one of them I actually like. And that is the Collar of Corruption, which is basically the old brass collar of Khorne. This unit unbinds as if it was a level 1 wizard. Each time this unit successfully unbinds a spell, inflict D3 mortal damage to the caster. So a unit with this collar can try to counterspell, and if it succeeds, not only does it counter the spell, it blows up. Hello, cat. Get out of the camera. Not only does it succeed, it also does D3 mortal wounds. You do that a couple of times, you could kill a wizard for them casting spells at you. So I like that artifact a lot. Now the lore, Prayer Lord, not super impressive. You know, I wrote down, let's see, 2 I thought were pretty good. Which, depending, it's 2 out of 3. You know, that's not bad, but, you know, Khorne is not renowned for spell casting or answering people's prayers because he doesn't care. So the fact that his Prayer Lord is kind of, it's okay, is appropriate again on theme. The first prayer is Uncontrollable Rage. You know, do your casting, your chanting, assuming you get it, and it's only a 4, so it's not too hard. Till the start of your next turn, the effects of Blood Drench, see battle traits, applies to target unit. In addition, on a 3-up, they get Wild Eye Brutality. I didn't make my notes, so I'm going to have to go back to that real quick. They get the effects of Blood Drenched, which is, the Blood Drench is the thing you get when half the models that started on the field, basically the roster, what your opponent brought, what you brought, added together, divided by 2, rounded up, have been killed off. So They get wild opportunity, so they ignore positive modifiers for saves for friendly units. No, they ignore that. I'm sorry. They ignore that. They also get the blood drenched battle trait, which basically, if you are a bloodbound, you have crit mortal. If you are demons, you get an additional 1 rend. And if you're a bloodlord, you get an additional damage characteristic. So all these things are pretty good, because this is your massive unlock ability, and you get it as a spell for just 1 unit, not army-wide. The other one I liked was Blood Boil. Your roll number of dice equal to an enemy unit. And let's see, you have to target an enemy unit within 18 inches. If you succeed on your 4 up on your chant, you roll a d6 for every model in that unit. On a 5+, inflict immortal damage. In addition, if you succeeded with an 8+, subtract 1 to the wound rolls of that unit until the start of your next turn. So, assuming you get average dice rolls, you can kill a third of a unit if they're a 1 wound model. And then you also subtract 1 from their wound rolls on the next turn if you get high enough. So, that's really good. And after that, we have, how you summon the manifestations. I'm going to flip over to the manifestations real quickly. Because I like the models of them. However, again, the manifestations, not that amazing. The Wrath Axe got 4 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, rends 2, and D3 damage. Roll 2d6 on an 8+, 1 model for this target is slain. Now, basically, if you can roll slightly above average, and let's see, it's an enemy unit, the starting size is greater than 1. Yeah, basically you can kill a model in the unit on an 8+, straight up. It's not bad, but there are better manifestations out there. The Hex Score Skulls. They basically don't like wizards. Subtract 1 from the casting rolls. Some, again, wizard hate. And the bleeding icon. You can hand out blood tide type point abilities as if it had been unlocked. Yeah, not bad. Not necessarily really worth it. And it has no offensive capability. But the heart of the Khorne army are certain key units. I'm going to flip to some of those key units real quick and just kind of review what they do. Okay, demons, the heart of the army is your bloodletters. They have a ward save of 6, the regular save of 5, they have 2 wounds, they movement 5, and they control 1. The Hellblade is their main weapon. Of course, they count as blood hungry, and they have crit mortals. They have 2 attacks, hit on 3s, wound on 3s, rend of 1, 1 damage. And they have the ceaseless violence. The fact that if this unit is in combat, it can move 3 inches. It can pass through close range of enemy units, but must end in combat. So basically, they just keep going. And that's very much a Khorne deal. Of course, you can have your musician, your standard bearer for 110. There are your demons. Flesh Hounds of Khorne, another core unit. Movement of 8. 6 up ward save, 6 save, so that's, why wouldn't you use 6 ward unless you're just not allowed to? 2 wounds, or health, I should say, because we changed it from wounds to health. They have Blood Hungry Champion, and they are Blood Dark Claws. They get 4 attacks, they hit on 4s, wound on 3s, random nothing, and damage of 1. This unit has a maximum control score of 1. So they can control a unit as long as nothing else is there. Or the objective. Let's see. Hunters of Mystic. If an enemy enemy wizard's casting within 12 inches of this unit contains 2 or more results of 1s or 2, the spell is miscast. If chanting roll for a priest within 12 inches of this unit is an unmodified 2, the prayer fails and its effects do not resolve. So again, we hate wizards. We hate spells. I love the fact that my stuff from the original box are still in the codex. I was kind of worried that some of my stuff might be cold out as we were going through this. Alright, switch over to the mortal sides. The Blood Warriors. Movement's 5, 3 up save, which is really good in Age of Sigmar. Health of 2, a control of 1. The gore weapons are Blood Hungry, crit, auto wounds. They have 3 attacks, which is better than most of the demon stuff. Hits on 4s, wounds on 3s, rend of 1, damage of 1. Their passive ability is No Respite. While this unit is contesting an objective you do not control, it has ward saves of 5 up. So when you're trying to take an objective, they are harder to kill, which is really good. And of course, we also have the Blood Reavers. Blood Reavers are your cannon fodder. The movement's 5, 6 up saves, health of 1, control of 1. Reaver blades and axes. The count is Blood Hungry. They get 2 attacks, hit on 4s, wound on 3s, rend on nothing, and damage of 1. And they have Blood for the Blood God. Add 1 to the rend characteristic units of the weapons of this unit if it's charged the same turn. So it does go to rend of 1 on a charge. And then we go to the unit that has kind of always been a must-take, which is the Mighty Skull Crushers. Movement of 10, health of 5, 2 up save, which is crazy good, and 2 control. Of course, you have the Rider's Weapon, which is the Gorbath Cleaver Axis. They are charged plus 1 damage. They have 3 attacks, hit and wound on 3 ups, rend of 1, damage of 1, except on charge course, which it jumps to 2. Juggernauts, Bronze and Hooves. It's companion. It's 2 attacks, hit on 4s, wound on 3s, rend of 1, and D3 damage. And they have a charge phase ability called Slaughterous Charge. If this unit declares charge, pick a visible unit within 1 inch. Within 1 inch to be the target. Oh, if the unit charged this turn, I'm sorry. Roll a D3. On a 2+, inflict mortal wounds equal to the roll. So you're going to do 2 or 3 mortal wounds after you completed a charge. Then you get to make 5 attacks per model. It's usually on 3, so it's 15 attacks. But it's still pretty good charge ability. I'm going to go off the unit I'm currently painting, which is the Skull Reapers. This unit, of course, is only 5 strong. These are big, beefy boys. Performance enhancing stuff not discouraged in the Khorne armies, obviously, based on the muscle tone of these dudes. Their movement is 5. They are 3 health. They are 4 up save, and they have control of 1. Demon Forged Weapons. They have crit 2 hits. 4 attacks. So on 6s, each of those hits are going to basically be exploding. Hit on 4s, wound on 3s, rend of 1, damage of 2. And they have Trail of Skulls as their ability. Add 8 to this unit's control score while in combat. So, you're going to jump to 13 while in combat if you haven't lost any models. And that's some of the key things. We're not going to go into the greater demons. They're always awesome. We all know that. We have the Path of Glory. I've only skimmed it, to be fair, because, I only had the book for a few days now. I'm not sure about the Spearhead, because the control disability of the Flesh Hounds, the Claws of Karnak being rather easy to kill, and of course Karnak, I don't know how good that's going to be in Spearhead, where the whole objective is to control objectives, but you have things that are not, your army is made of things that are not good at controlling objectives. So that one kind of concerns me. Path of Glory, I haven't read it all, but just the concept of the Path of Slaughter, or the Path of Bronze and Butchery, sounds very on theme, so I'm happy about that. Army of Renown. Now, the Army of Renown, you can do a Gore Chosen champions, which is basically you're committing your whole army to being mortal. And I kind of like that because it's kind of what I'm eventually going to build mine up to. I do have a lot of bloodletters, so our initial army is not going to be that way. But we're working on it. And there's some pretty cool stuff on this. But yes, you're only going to be taking bloodbound units. Then there is the Baneful Lords one. Now, this one's going to be super popular because it's, what if I ran Bloodthirsters like I would run Knights in 40k? Or Mega Gargants in Age of Sigmar? Because your whole army is just variations of Bloodthirsters. You can, of course, do Scarbrand if you want to. So, that is just bonkers to think of. It's also bonkers to think about how expensive that is, relatively speaking, because we're probably talking 5, or at least 4 Bloodthirsters. I haven't looked at the points yet, since I assume they've been updated. But 4 or 5 Bloodthirsters at 170 American dollars right now. That's a lot of money for not a lot of units. But still pretty cool. Then we have the regiments of renown that you can use with other people's armies. One of which is the Exalted one. Now, this guy can be used with Disciples of Tzeentch, basically any other Chaos faction besides Blades of Khorne. And it's just Scarbrand. We're going to take the craziest bloodthirster of them all and let him work with other units. Then we have the Red Revenants. Same thing, they can work with any non-Blades of Khorne unit. And it's a Slaughter Priest, 5 Skull Reavers, and 10 Blood Reavers. So it's pretty cool. I'm surprised Blood Warriors aren't part of it. They have a couple little neat things. But all in all, I think this Battletome really focuses on the feel of what Blades of Khorne are supposed to be. I think the army is going to be decently strong. I don't know that it's going to be a massive, oh, we made this way too powerful, we need to go back and, start gimping some things out. I don't think it's so weak that it's going to be like, oh, wow, this army's getting trounced, we need to buff them up some. I think it's going to be right in that middle ground about where it's supposed to be. And for some reason, my brain just shut down on my one complaint. The character lord from the very, very first box set, who is now represented as his original model is now the Mighty Lord of Khorne. And I don't know if I can find his name again fast enough. But in the last story arc, the Crusade story arc that we led into the time of ruin. He had finally achieved the blessing of Khorne and got what he had sought forever. He'd been promoted to demonhood, so he's a demon prince of Khorne. That is my one big disappointment in this codex and in the model range right now. I was super excited when that character got his promotion to a demon prince. I wanted him in this book. I wanted a brand new, cool looking model of him as a demon prince of Khorne, as a unique model. And I didn't get that. So I am disappointed in this book in that aspect. Because I've been waiting now for 10 years for that character to get his upgrade that he's been working for centuries. And he finally achieved it, and I don't get to enjoy it. So, pass that on to the guys at GW that they need to get around to making him into a model. Anyway, Battletome, US $60. The Blades of Khorne are, they're Khorne army. It's red, it's brass, it's lots of beefy dudes with axes. They are a fun army. Their tactics are straightforward. I'm going to go bash your army's head in with an axe. No thrills, no crazy wonkiness. I'm just here to beat you into the ground. And there is something refreshing about running an army that is the main objective. One reason why orcs are super popular in both Age of Sigmar and 40k is, yes, you can overcomplicate it, but at the end of the day, boys just want to fight. Bloodbound, Khorne demons, they just want to kill things. And that's what this book reflects. It rewards you for doing that. It rewards you for your stuff getting killed too. So there's no advantages to sitting back and trying to relax and trying to we're going to fight a defensive battle. Khorne doesn't fight defensive battles. Khorne goes and takes things. And this book encourages that. So again, check this book out and get your army. Blood for the Blood God. Till next time.